Hi, my name is Sasha and I'm a smart bidding product specialist. And today, together with Owen, we are going to speak about the strategies for the customers who are experiencing challenges in their businesses or reassessing their priorities. Let us start with the customers who are experiencing new challenges. We categorize businesses who are experiencing disruptions in demand or supply as well as logistics as the customers who are experiencing business challenges. An example of such a customer can be life events, for example. Today, concerts and festivals are cancelled, weddings are postponed. Or travel. Today, travel is being banned in some countries, and for some people, it's just not a priority. Or brick and mortar retail stores, right? Stores that are either closed or when they are open, they cannot accept the same amount of customers as before. And these are not the only examples. If your client's business is facing the same challenges, you might want to shift your digital strategy to a more profitable one, the one that will have most impact in the next 30 days. Or some of the customers can think of pausing their advertising activity for a while. It is key today to adapt to external challenges. If your customer is experiencing the cash flow challenges, in this case, identify what is critical for the business today and they prioritize something that has smaller and short-term impact. If you're in brick and mortar store, in this case, make sure you update the opening hours in Google My Business and that you stop the campaigns, in-store traffic campaigns. And for the limited supply chain, do update your feeds and set the right expectations with the customers in terms of services, delivery, and dates. There are 3 key strategies to shift digital marketing approach. First, find the ways to get better results from your digital marketing strategy. Second, to focus on the most valuable customers. And the third one, to keep your customers updated on the offerings and changes that you are experiencing. And this is where smart bidding comes into play. During uncertain times, the consumer behavior is very unpredictable. Smart bidding can handle the changes in the consumer behavior and predict the conversion likelihood for every query that enters into your account. And it will set a tailored bid for each and every auction that is happening. I sometimes hear from our customers that there are no ways to control and optimize smart bidding, and I do not agree. There are various ways of doing that. First of all, placing your targets. You can place it on ad group level or campaign level, or even use a portfolio bidding strategy. Then you can adjust your targets to adapt them to the changes that are happening at the moment. And then conversions. Include in the conversion column the most important conversion for you and optimize towards it. And then budgets. You can reduce your budgets if necessary at the moment and then get back to normal when the situation is back to normal. And then pausing, constraining, or excluding what you think is not important today. That can be some less profitable campaigns or larger audience lists that you do not want to target today. And finally, forecasting. Use Google Ads tools to forecast your performance together with smart bidding. Use the performance planner for budgets and use the recommendation page for targets and simulations. Let's have a look at different examples of when you can help the algorithm by changing the targets. First of all, you need to understand what is changing. If it is the volume that is changing, let's say the traffic is changing or the queries are changing, in this case, smart bidding is absolutely capable of handling those changes on its own. And then have a look at the conversion rate. See what's happening there. If you see the conversion rate change, and if it is changing gradually, little by little, day by day, it goes up or down, smart bidding will be absolutely capable of managing this change. But if your conversion rate is changing drastically, for example, suddenly it increases or decreases by more than 30%, and by suddenly I mean in a short period of time, like 1, 2, or 3 days, In this case, you can adjust your targets proportionally to the conversion rate change. And of course, there are some unpredictable changes. In this case, we recommend you to look into them and to try to understand what the change in conversion rate is going to be and take the actions. Using smart bidding is one of the ways to get better results from your digital ads campaign. First, switch to a smart bidding strategy to make conversions more cost effective. Then you can set conservative targets, but please make sure you are following all the best practices. And then you can adjust your targets according to the situation. You can always reduce the budget in case it is needed. And also make sure that you pause all the campaigns that are not so effective at the moment. As the next step, simplify your campaign management. To do so, you can use portfolio bidding strategies. It is much easier to manage several campaigns at a time, especially if they have the same goal, and also they can be more cost-effective in this case. And you can use the shared budgets for those campaigns. Together with smart bidding, the budget will be allocated to the campaigns that are more cost-effective today, and if the situation changes, it will allocate the budget to a new, more cost-effective campaigns. And do use location targeting for all the platforms as well. If you are present on the regions where there are disruptions in supply chain, this is something that will help you to get the best results. Additionally, review current trends and understand what's working. You can see the shifts in demand, if there are any new trends or opportunities that are coming up. Also, maximize your value on search and understand the auction dynamics. In order to manage volatility, use performance planning. It can show you what budget scenarios can give you what kind of impact. And then, of course, do use recommendation page to see how you can adjust the targets to get more out of your campaigns, and also if there is a need to shift budget from one campaign to another, for example. As mentioned previously, make sure that you focus on the most valuable customers. Adjust your target audience to those who are more likely to take an action. In terms of geography, stop the campaigns where the operations are interrupted. Add scheduling to your campaigns to reflect the current state of affairs, and also update your ad extensions. Also, make sure that all the changes are reflected in your ads. To do so, use responsive search ads and then update your creatives in general with the new services and conditions that you have, with new working hours and so on. And also pause the extensions that are not valuable anymore. For example, if your call center is closed, in this case, remove the phone number from your ads. On display and video, during the uncertain times, if your business is experiencing challenges, you might want to pause certain campaigns to save the costs and focus on more high-return campaigns. If you are doing so, please make sure that you respect the bid and budget requirements. This is crucial at this period of time. You might also want to consolidate your budget on a low-funnel campaigns to make sure that they are the most cost-effective possible. In any scenario, please make sure that you respect all the best practices. That is critical to get the best results. Another recommendation would be to simplify your strategy to one single audience campaign to drive the strongest results. That can be remarketing, in-market or custom intent campaign. Let's see a great example of how some businesses manage their challenges. San Diego Teeth Whitening is a boutique dental service provider that was impacted by the closure of their boutiques. In order to create the demand for the post-pandemic period, they created an offer, buy one, get one, that helped them to create the bank of customers for the post-pandemic times. This promotion was completed by a new search campaign that focused on capturing interested customers and resulted in plus 600% return on ad spend increase. And now I'm happy to hand mic to Owen, who is going to walk you through the solutions for the clients who are reassessing their priorities. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Owen and I am a product specialist on the search team here in Google. So we're now going to look at advertisers who are reassessing their priorities in light of the current situation. So typically these advertisers, they're not as negatively impacted as the ones that we spoke about with Sasha before, but still, due to changes in the economy and changes in consumer behaviour and demand, they are looking to mitigate risk and are more than likely reluctant to make any big business decisions for the time being. So, looking at a few examples of specific verticals that may have businesses that are reassessing priorities. Now, we're going to look at 3 different verticals here. That's not to say these are the only 3 that are experiencing challenges, or even that all businesses within these verticals are experiencing the same challenges. But these are the ones that we are seeing significant challenges in at the moment. So, within finance, a lot of finance advertisers or businesses are experiencing shortages in leads at the moment, which they rely on massively. There's also obviously a change in the economy, and we're seeing a massive downturn, and some businesses may be experiencing cash flow shortages. Within marketing services, because a lot of consumers are moving more and more online because they can't make purchases offline or in store at the moment, some businesses who operate within marketing services may need to change their strategy in terms of how they acquire new customers. And then within real estate, the housing market is very much down at the moment as well, because consumers are reluctant to make any big purchasing decisions right now. Also within real estate, typically they would have showed people properties in person. They can no longer do that right now, so they're moving more and more towards virtual tours. So again, not all businesses within these verticals are going to be facing the same challenges, but it's up to us as their marketing partners to understand what the issues they're facing at the moment, try to spot trends and insights and opportunities for their business to move forward in the current climate. So, looking at a few specific examples of challenges businesses may be facing at the moment. So, if we look at lead gen, businesses who rely on leads at the moment, a lot of them would have done so using call centres. And with restrictions in place now at the moment, a lot of call centres are operating under reduced hours, or some just aren't operating at all. So, it's up to us to look at alternative ways to acquire customers or source leads. So this can be done through forms on site, or even in your Google Ads via form extensions. At the very least here, we should be ensuring that call extensions are only showing during the hours that they're operational, or removing them altogether if the call centre is now closed for the time being. Some other businesses are facing logistical disruptions or shortages in their supply chain. So from a marketing point of view, we need to make sure that we are only showing products that we currently have in stock. And this will mean relying on things like feeds, which makes complete sense from a shopping point of view, because we use our feeds in the Google Merchant Center, but also feeds can be used in other channels as well. So on the display side of things, we can use feeds to ensure that we're only showing products that we currently have in stock and linking a feed to our display campaigns. And even in search, we can use feeds for dynamic search ads as well, to make sure that we're only showing the products that we currently have in stock via our DSA ads. Then, as we said before, we're experiencing a much bigger shift online now more than ever. So looking to position our budgets or make sure that we are focusing on campaigns that are promoting online sales. So this could be things like shopping, focusing on shopping campaigns, and looking to reallocate budget from campaigns that had historically not focused on online purchasing. So reallocating budget towards things like shopping, if that makes sense, and ensuring that we have the right targets set up for our shopping activity, or the new activity that we are focusing on now. So that's just looking at some of the challenges that businesses may be focusing on, and obviously there can be a huge amount more challenges that are out there for each individual business. But what can we do from a tactical point of view for businesses that are reassessing their priorities? So we're going to focus on 3 main things. So firstly, ensuring we're using automation to quickly react to any changes in the auction or in consumer behaviour. Secondly, that we are pushing the right message out, that the messaging that we're using within our ads is reflective of the way the business is now operating. And thirdly, to mitigate risk and ensure that we are giving ourselves the best chance of getting a return in the short term, focusing on our highest value audiences. So that may mean things like focusing on our remarketing or our in-market audiences. So starting with the automation piece, how can we use automation to really drive performance for our business? So firstly, focusing on using smart bidding. Smart bidding and smart bidding strategies like target CPA or target return on ad spend will react very quickly to any changes in the auction dynamics and will recognize trends in terms of consumer behavior or where there may be a downturn in certain demand for certain products and a spike for demand in other products. So making sure to use smart bidding across all of our activity, and that goes for search, display, shopping and video, to get the best return on ad spend if we are a performance orientated advertiser. Now we can also here ensure that we have the right target set up. So we may need to adjust the target that we're setting our bid strategies in light of any changes in terms of the market itself or performance in general. Now that we're using smart bidding, we also need to ensure that we are fueling smart bidding with the right signals. So that may mean doing an audit on the conversion actions you have set up in the account. So if you think of an omni-channel retailer who would have historically focused both on online and offline sales, now that their stores may likely be closed, we may need to only focus, or we'll want to only focus on online sales for smart bidding. So that will mean changing the conversion actions that we're including for smart bidding to optimize. Another thing we can do here is use shared budgets across our campaigns. So shared budgets will give the system the ability to shift budget from one campaign to the other based on performance. So this will mean the system will prioritize campaigns that are performing well and may deprioritize campaigns that are not hitting our smart bidding goals. Then finally, just on the automation piece here, ensuring that we're planning ahead. So we're going through very dynamic times at the moment, and we're seeing big shifts from one week to the next in terms of consumer behavior. So making sure we are using the most up-to-date data in order to make decisions in terms of budgets. So using things like Performance Planner or the bid simulation tool to get an understanding of how budgets and bids are going to impact our bottom line. So Performance Planner is one tool that we're going to focus on here, and this is a tool that was spoken about by Miguel yesterday, and it can be found up in the tools section of your Google Ads account. And Performance Planner will allow you to get an idea of how different budget and bid scenarios will impact the overall conversion volumes that your account is driving. It will also allow you to get an idea of how the target CPA or the target ROAS you are setting will impact conversion volumes. So if we were to relax our target CPA, how many additional conversions can we expect to achieve? And another great feature for Performance Planner, and it's one you should look out for in your own accounts, is the Improve Plan button. So the Improve Plan button will show you how, by shifting budgets between your campaigns, how can you drive an overall increase in the volume of conversions. And the Performance Planner tool is great for the current situation because it uses really fresh data within the account. So it looks at the previous 7 to 10 days when making its forecasts. And a good rule of thumb at the moment is, because the market is quite dynamic, we should be doing forecasts over much smaller time periods. So looking at doing forecasts bi-weekly or every 3 weeks maybe, so we have the freshest data within our account when it is forecasting spend levels and conversion volumes. The second thing we should be looking at is our messaging. So what messaging we are using within our account. So for advertisers who are reassessing their priorities, we may want to do an audit on all of the creatives we have within our Google Ads account. And that goes for search, display and video. So making sure that the messaging we're using is reflective of the way the business is now operating. We can also use responsive ads, so responsive search ads and responsive display ads, to make sure that we have the most impactful messaging for each and every auction or for every audience that we are targeting. And then just touching on the feed side of things again, that we are using feeds to dynamically update the products that we are we're marketing for, so that the feed reflects the products that we have in stock, and we're only spending money on those products that we do want to push. And then how can we prioritize our most valuable audiences? So firstly, on this point, we need to make sure that for each and every is out there that's relevant to our that's relevant for our advertisers, that we are capturing this. So this may mean that we will need to look outside of the existing keywords that we have in our account right now, and look at things like using the keyword recommendations or keyword planner to source new keywords that may be relevant for our business. We can also use things like dynamic search ads to capture additional demand that we don't have keyword sets for at the moment. So as we know, 15% of searches every day on Google are brand new. So how can we ensure that we are capturing that additional traffic and additional demand? Secondly, on this point, we need to prioritize our high value audiences, and this goes across all channels. So at the very least, we should be layering our campaigns with additional remarketing and in-market audiences to fuel smart bidding. But if we are really trying to drive a return on ad spend in the short term and an immediate return on ad spend in the short term, we can also look to focus solely on those audiences. So what that means is on search, we can add audiences as target only, which means that only a user who is on that audience and searches for our keywords will be triggered an ad. And then make sure to look at the optimization score within the account. And we're going to look at the optimization score now in the next slide, but make sure to use it to get an idea as to where we can add additional keywords. And the keyword recommendations within OptiScore, they're based on trending keywords within your vertical at the moment, so they should be highly relevant. And the product team has done a lot of work to improve the quality of those recommendations. But the same goes for other parts of the account as well. The recommendations tab will give you an idea as to where you can improve performance by adding additional audiences, or adding new ads to your account, or what smart bidding strategy is going to be most impactful for this particular account. Okay, so we're now going to do a demo of the recommendations tab using the OptiScore simulation exercise. So this is an external tool that allows you to set up recommendations or implement features from the recommendations tab in a dummy account. So you can find this at optiscore.gamification.website, and you can use this yourselves. So this demo account allows you to add in recommendations across a number of different products. So we can set up responsive search ads, smart bidding, budgets, smart shopping, and dynamic search ads and keywords. So for the sake of this, we are going to look at setting up responsive search ads. So the recommendations tab can be found over here on the left hand sidebar. So if we click into that, the first thing we'll see is the account's optimization score. So this is essentially a health index of the account itself. So the higher the optimization score is, the better the account is expected to perform. Because we are setting up responsive search ads, we can find them in ads and extensions. So if we click into ads and extensions, we'll see a list of different recommendations suggested for this particular account, and responsive search ads are coming up to the top. So by implementing responsive search ads, we'll see a 3 percentage point increase in our overall optimization score. So at this point, you can either apply the individual recommendations, or I would suggest viewing the recommendations to see what the system is suggesting. So we can see here it is suggesting to add in RSAs across 3 different ad groups for shoes, jeans and onesies. And if we click into the recommendation itself, we can see that it is suggesting 3 headlines and then 3 description lines. So at this point, because with responsive search ads we can add up to 15 headlines and 4 description lines, we should be adding in additional assets. And something to keep note of here is the ad strength for your responsive search ads. So the ad strength is an indication of how well the RSA is expected to perform. So by adding in additional assets to the ad, we can improve the overall ad strength of the RSA. So because this is a retail customer, we may want to add in additional headlines like free delivery. and next day delivery. And try to utilize as many of the different headlines and descriptions as possible. Now, because this is a dummy account, we're not going to see the ad strength actually increase. But by adding in those additional headlines and description lines and making them relevant to the keywords within the ad group, we will see the overall ad strength increase. So once we've added in our headlines and descriptions, we can then click apply, and that is us adding in responsive search ads to this particular ad group. So that is it from today's session, and thank you so much for joining us. So we will be diving deeper into most of the product solutions we discussed this week during next week's Digital Agility Academy. So you should have already received an invite for that session. And please also have a look at the resources section at the top of this page. So you can find their additional trainings as well as downloadable one-sheeters with a summary of what we've been discussing today. On the right-hand side of the screen, there is also a survey for this session. So please take a minute to fill this out, and we'll be using these survey results for designing future sessions in the coming months. Thank you very much, and we will see you in tomorrow's session. Bye-bye.